Hello, students. Welcome you all for this semester course uh, on digital signal processing. My name is Kotresh Murali, working as assistant professor in the Department of E&C, SDM Engineering College, Dharwad. For this semester, I will be handling a course called Digital Signal Processing, which is of a 3 credit course. And I'm handling this for a second time, and earlier I handled signal and systems for third semester, and from past 1 year I have been shifted to digital signal processing subject. For this semester I will be handling this course for A division. And students, I hope you all are doing well due to this pandemic situation. You are staying at home and you all are safe. At the same time, just we have to begin with the next semester course, and we are trying to make an attempt where we try to go for recorded lectures, and we'll try to be putting this in on YouTube, followed by the same thing will be played in as per the timetable scheduled. In the meanwhile, if you have any doubts, you can always feel free to contact me either of these through either of these email IDs. So, for let us begin with the course. The course code goes like this: 18U ECC 502. This is a new course where the prerequisite for this particular course is, yes, obviously it is signals and systems. Along with the signals and systems, I think you are well versed with some fundamental mathematics of mathematics like basic trigonometry, calculus, and as apart from that, the fundamentals of Laplace transforms and Fourier series, Fourier transforms are must. With this brief, let us take you to the syllabus. That is, the main part is I need to understand the learning objectives, like why I should study the digital signal processing. Mainly the course focus on the discrete Fourier transforms. In short, we call it as a DFT. We look into why DFT is required, properties and their applications, and this course also design of analog and digital filters at using the different methods, and the filter realization on the hardware. So these are the main learning objectives of this particular subject. Moving further, the another important point where the student has to understand is what are the outcomes of this subject. The main outcome of this subject is, in the very beginning, you learn how to compute the Fourier transform, discrete Fourier transforms, and finding the inverse of discrete Fourier transforms, when to apply and where to apply the properties of DFT in order to solve signal processing problems. And later on some point of time, you also study how you can minimize the computations of discrete Fourier transform, and you also try to compare the traditional DFT computation with fast Fourier transforms. That is what we say, compare with the direct computations and the another algorithms. Again, in module 3, you try to design a simple filters by using a pole zero model and some mathematical approximations That is, by using Butterworth and Chebyshev approximation method, we try to design filters here, and followed by we try to design a digital IIR filter by giving some specific conditions to meet the passband frequency and the lower cutoff frequency and higher cutoff frequency as such. And again, we try to convert the same digital filters into IIR filters into FIR filters, where here I just brief you. IIR means infinite impulse responses, and FIR means finite impulse responses. We design a infinite impulse responses filter, and later in time we try to convert, or we try to design a finite impulse response filter, the digital FIR filter, and we also try to see how it can be implemented at the hardware level. So these are the main course outcomes of this particular subject. Okay. No, this is the first time where we now shifted the kind of syllabus from chapter wise to module wise or unit wise. So unit 1 is of 7 hours, that is discrete Fourier transform, where you come to know about basics of digital signal processing, frequency domain sampling and reconstruction of the DT signals, and mainly we concentrate on properties and other filtering methods based on the DFT and frequency analysis of the same. Few of the concepts parallelly you do it in the laboratory. This course is also parallelly is having a digital circuits lab, digital signal processing lab. DSP lab comprises where you try to go with a few convolution examples and circular convolution examples, linear filtering methods, frequency analysis of a signals using DFT, how to obtain the DFT, how to obtain the DFT using fast Fourier transform algorithm, and how to design filters. All these are going to be explored by writing a MATLAB script programming, and we will use a MATLAB for this. In the second unit, that is what I told you, whatever the DFT computations that we do with the traditional method, now is it possible to improve the speed of this DFT? Again, we go for using fast Fourier transform algorithms for the computation of DFT and IDFT. And mainly there are two algorithms. One is DIT FFT, we call it as, that is decimation in time and decimation in frequency algorithms, in order to obtain the DFT and IDFT algorithms. In the later stage, we just try to compare the speed by calculating the number of multiplications and number of additions that are involved in obtaining the DFT and IDFTs. And some of the applications of FFT algorithms are also discussed in this unit. And the second unit is of 8 hours. Now this is third unit, is one of the very important chapter. So pole zero method for design of simple filters. Here this chapter deals about how to design a filters. Probably you might have already studied how to design an analog filter using RLC circuits, or using the operational amplifiers, low pass filter and high pass filter, using the op-amp. That is in your previous semesters in linear integrated circuits LIC subject. Now here we try to make use of some mathematical approach how analog IIR filters can be designed. by using a mathematical approximation method. The one is Butterworth and Chebyshev type of filters. Here also we will try to design a second order filter and third order filter, and in general we call it as a nth ordered filter. Probably you might have, that's what I told you, probably you have designed a second ordered filter using op-amp in your lower semesters, and similarly here how it can be designed, that's what we will see in the DSP subject. Moving further, that was the all about the analog IR filter. Since we are discussing about the digital signal processing, then I must know how to design digital IR filters. And again here also we have some mathematical approximations in order to design the IR filter. So first mathematical approximation is using derivatives, and second one is using impulse invariance method, and third one is bilinear transformation. There are many other, but we, for your syllabus, we kept 3 different approximation methods in order to design digital IIR filters, followed by design of digital FIR filters. Already I told you FIR stands for finite impulse response and IIR stands for infinite impulse response. It is mandatory that in order to have in a realistic approach, the impulse response must be finite. It cannot be infinite. Now we already designed in the unit 4 we learned about designing the infinite impulse response. By using the same concept as a fundamental, we try to design finite impulse response filter by using a technique called symmetric and antisymmetric. We use we understand what is symmetric and antisymmetric FIR filters, and we use the technique called linear phase FIR filter using Windows method. Window method is a technique used to convert IIR filters into FIR filters. And in this window method, you learn about different windows, that is rectangular window, Hanning window. All these are once again a mathematical approximation methods to design a finite impulse response filters. Again, there are few concepts where we try to understand how to design or how to implement the hardware for these digital FIR filters. That is what we call it as the implementation of discrete time system for IIR and implementation of discrete time system for FIR. When I say that implementation, it is all the time that is with respect to hardware. So in total the unit 4 is also for 8 hours and unit 5 is also for 8 hours. So total 5 units, which is for 39 hours. So since this course is for only 3 credit course, hence the total number of hours is 39 hours. Okay. Now these are the reference book. You just go through the reference books here. The Prokes and Monolikus Digital Signal Processing Principal Algorithms and Applications, 4th edition by Pearson Education. This is the one standard reference book we will be referring throughout this semester. Apart from that, here and there if you have any doubts, you can also go through the textbook by Digital Signal Processing by Sanjit K. Mitra, and Lee Tan is one more very good textbook to understand the fundamentals and applications of the DSP, which is from Elsewhere Publications. So these another 2 textbooks, that is Sanjit K. Mitra and Lee Tan, are good textbooks where you can understand much better apart from Prokis. I apart from this, I will be referring to Vijaya Madam's slides uh, for the preparation of my slide also. I take this opportunity to thank Vijaya Madam for sharing her valuable materials since Madam is handling from long many years. Okay, now coming to first chapter, unit 1. It is all about discrete Fourier transforms. That is, in now onwards, I just simply pronounce it as DFT. After learning this particular chapter, what you will come to know? That's what the one student has to know after going for some studies. What basically I could able to understand from this particular chapter. So basically, you will understand what is digital signal processing and frequency domain sampling and reconstruction of discrete time signals. You will able to obtain DFT for a given input signals and properties of a discrete Fourier transform. You will understand the two important filtering methods, that is linear filtering methods for long sequences. One is overlap add and overlap save methods. Then we also try to analyze the frequency analysis of signals using DFT. Now let us move for the topic, what is digital signal processing and why digitalization is required and why digitalization has become an important part. Okay, just go through this slide. What do you understand? Dear students, look at this slide. There are two computers. One is analog computer and another one is digital computer. Okay, whereas you have one filter. Sorry, one as analog computer and another one is digital computer. What do you observe the difference between this and this? Look at this. I have a one. I will assume a scenario where one of the person is talking and the same thing is communicated across the another person. Now, if at all I assume this person is with some distance and he is trying to communicate. Let us assume that over a phone, person is talking to person X is talking to person Y. Now, how do you communicate this? If there is an analog computer, so when I say that analog, you must remember that this is nothing but RLC circuit. A circuit which comprises of resistance, inductance, capacitor and your basic transistors, etc, etc, etc. So this analog computer, now I am trying to, by using this analog computer, I am trying to transfer a data. What is this data? Speech signal. Speech signal from person X to person Y. Now with this scenario, if a person talk too slow, then a person Y cannot hear it properly. And you have designed a analog computer in such a way that it can operate at one particular frequency, say for example F1. F1 is the only frequency that where it is going to be transferred from one source to another source. Now if I want to modify this frequency, now again I need to design a circuit with one more configuration or another specifications of R, L and C by using these components. Replace that analog computer with a new circuit. Dear students, don't you feel that this is too tedious job? Because whenever you want to have a change in your algorithm, you are trying to change the entire hardware circuit. Now, what would be the best solution? Now it is as good as, now every time if you don't hear the properly if a person Y cannot hear properly, then every time you should keep on, it is as good as every time you should keep on changing your mobile phones. No, is it not a is it a good solution? So wherein you keep on investing for the mobile phones itself, which is not a good thing, right? Now what we do? So now there is a one more solution for me where I keep a mic. Now it is assumed that just you have a volume control in your mobile phone. So what you can do, if you think that the person X is talking too loud, and you have a control in your mobile phone where you can decrease the volume. Also, if you feel that the person X is talking too slow, you also have a volume to increase. Again, this volume can be processed by what? Your mobile processor. What the mobile processor is doing? It is processing a signal. It is processing a signal. The main important issue here is the signal is processed after converting an analog signal into digital signal. The volume of increasing or decreasing, or even assume that I record that signal and later in point of time I want to transfer that recorded signal to another mobile. It is also possible. Nowadays the mobile phones are so smart enough. I can record my signal, or I can record my speech signal. I can also transfer this to another device. Am I right? So now all these things are performed using a digital data. I have an analog data here. This analog signal is converted to digital signal using a analog to digital converter. Now using digital signal, once I have a digital data, I can manipulate the data at any point of time. I can manipulate the data at any point of time by using suitable algorithms, or by writing a simple programs also. I will be having a single processor. Within that processor, I can go for any manipulations that is required, and hence the input to the processor is digital, and I am trying to process the signal, hence the name digital signal processing. After processing, once again the output data is still in digital, but in real time I always want to have an analog output itself. Hence, I will be using a one more block diagram, that is converting this digital data to analog data. So now this is where the digital computer plays a very important role. I can call your mobile phone as a digital computer itself, because it is trying to process your analog signal. You can increase the volume, you can decrease the volume of your mobile phone. You have a control of sending a stored data, that is maybe a speech data, or even nowadays you can also transfer a video data to any other devices through internet medium. So which means that your system is processing the data. Now itself you take, I am recording this lecture, right? You also have a control. If you feel that my voice is too low in your system, you have a control where you can increase the volume and decrease the volume. Even if it is not sufficient, you can connect the computer to the big speakers, and you can also hear it at the louder voice. So all these things is possible with it is only through the digital computers, and that kind of computers need a processor. That is, see, every computer must require a CPU, and here the CPU is processing a digital signal, hence the name digital signal processing. That's it. I hope you got a brief introduction about digital signal processing. And now I'll just give you the clear definition. What is digital signal processing? Digital signal processing is used to manipulate real world signals. Real world signals. What is the real world signal? Maybe a speech signal, or maybe any electric signal. Say for example, so I am trying to make use of a microwave oven, and I will be keeping some a dish over in it, and I am trying to get it heat. And is it not a is it not a processor's job? Automatically, it will stop for 2 minutes or so. So is it not a signal is going to be processed automatically? It is not a manipulation of the data. Is it not a real-time data? So that's what the digital signal processing is used to manipulate the real-world signal. And after they have been, the thing is, it is going to be manipulated only after it is getting converted to digital form. This is very important. The first important block diagram in the this DSP comes with, first is analog signal. So wherein analog signal is given as an input, and for my digital signal processor, it needs to be have a digital data. So hence I use a ADC converter, and I will give it to digital signal processor. Once again, the output will be in the form of digital data itself. Once again, my real-time output must be the analog. Hence, I use digital to analog converter to convert my digital signal into analog signal. So here in the entire DSP, we try to understand what type of operations can be performed inside this digital signal processor. Since I am trying to process digital signal, hence the name digital signal processing. So in the entire, whatever you heard about the words like DFT or fast Fourier transform, FFT, or designing of IIR filter, or FIR, digital FIR filter, and all these operations are going to be performed inside this digital signal processor. So hence our main focus is on this part. We are not right now, we are not concentrating how to convert an analog signal into digital, or how to convert a digital signal into analog. We are least bothered about that particular portion. Now probably these things are already covered in your LIC, or else it is going to be covered in some part is going to be covered in even in VLSI subject. So no issues, but our area of focus is on digital signal processor. So this is the importance of digitalization. The world is moving towards the digitalization, where I have a input data, and I'm trying to process it, convert that data into analog data into digital, and these digital signals you can observe here. So this is one example from audio signal. Assume that I am speaking here, and I am trying to record this session through through the recorder, and the data is analog. My voice signal is nothing but analog signal, and this analog signal is converted to digital data, and this is going to be processed, and later point of time I need to store the data. My voice has to be stored, and then once again when I show it to students, once again the stored data will be sent back to the processor. Then it is a job of a processor to fetch the data from the memory, and this, since the data is in digital, then convert this digital data into analog data. So this is how the digitalization of data or processing is done within the digital signal processor. Okay, so I hope this have given you a little bit of idea on importance of digital signal processing and a brief introduction. So in the next class we'll study about the very important part of signals, while revisiting to the signals. So before I conclude, why digitalization is required, students? So you can observe that no two analog systems with the same design will have a same responses. So assume that you are trying to design a simple amplifier in a lab. Everything is you and your friend is also using the transistor and the required source and the CRO, everything is same, and your design is also same, and his design is also same. Your designing is for some particular frequency. Now sometimes still you might have a faced situation where the output is not coming. The reason may be a different way. So the same, no two analog system will give the same responses. The reason may be the transistor may not be working, or transistor working temperature may be different, or the two transistor may be of different manufacturing companies, or one of the transistor got maybe due to the aging. So these are the different scenarios where you may not able to get the same output or some responses, same responses also. Now what is the solution? You need to change the entire hardware, or you need to change if you are not getting the expected responses. So what you usually do it in the lab, you remove all the connections and again you try to reconnect by using a one more transistor, and you go for some trial and error where you try to see the through your multimeter, you try to see the VB reading and etc., and all these trial and error you might have done in your lab, right? So I think you know that how difficult it is if you want to change the entire hardware, right? So then what is the best solution? I have a processor. I assume that I have a processor. I simply go on writing a program for it. So probably you might have undergone a course called Verilog HDL, where we write a simple multiplexer program. See, instead of third semester MUX IC also you have studied, instead of using the actual MUX IC, what we did, we wrote a simple HDL code which actually works like a MUX, and we downloaded that particular HDL code on the FPGA. Now FPGA start working like a multiplexer. Now other day for any other experiment or your project, you feel that a multiplexer is not required, I want to make it to work like a encoder. Now yes, it is also possible. Change the code. Now the only thing is you need to do is in your computer change the code from multiplexer to write a encoder programming, then download that particular code onto your FPGA. Now FPGA starts behaving like a encoder, right? So now if at all in third semester what you used to do, you need to remove the IC of multiplexer and you keep the IC of encoder, do a proper connections, and again you need to check the output. Now how tedious it is. So what makes the digital the rather than that, we adapt the reconfiguring the algorithms. The reconfigurable is possible with respect to digitalization technique. So that's where I think you have not, at the end you have not done the one beautiful experiments, like where you write a simple program using Verilog. You try to run a stepper motor where your input is digital but output becomes analog. All these kinds of thing is possible with respect to digitalization. So that's what I told you. World is moving or converting entire thing to digitalization now. So with this, I will stop this session for the day. I will come with in the next class. I'll start with the actual portion of digital signal processing, and where we go for the different types of signals that you have already studied in your signal processor, signals and systems. And in the meanwhile, I will take you to the very important concept, that is discrete Fourier transform. So dear students, thank you for your patient listening here. If you have any doubts, you can always feel free to post your doubts to this particular email ID. Okay, this is my contact email ID. Any time, any point of time, you can contact me. Thank you.